You know, it was a bizarre turn of events in 1982. A certain star player with the St. Louis Cardinals, who was traded in by the New York Yankees in one of the worst trades in the modern era, had to defend himself against what they call a nickname slur. And even Howard Cosell took it up, and Cosell was chastised on air for it. Now, we're going to be quoting from a New York Times article from October 1782 called Sports of the Times. Cardinals' Willie McGee is not ET now. Everybody knows Willie McGee in baseball circles as one of the best hitters of his era. Great defensive player, great teammate, had a whole bunch of success, helped the Cardinals to the 82 title over the Brewers. But for nearly 6 decades, the romance of the World Series of the Cardinals has always glowed, with some of the baseball's most familiar nicknames, including Bullet Bob Gibson, Stan the Man Musial, Eno's Country Slaughter, Harry the Cat Breachin, Whitey Kurowski, Dizzy Dean, Pepper Martin, Old Pete Alexander, but a Cardinal in this World Series resents his nickname. The Willie McGee, the rookie center fielder with 2 home runs in the Cardinals' 6-2 World Series victory Friday, does not want to be identified as ET, thank you. I appreciate people calling me by my name, Willie Dean McGee was saying, politely but firmly at his locker in the Cardinals clubhouse. People say things and I really don't like it. Not long after the June release of the motion picture E.T., of course directed by the great Steven Spielberg, who was a cultural touchstone, some opposing players began calling him E.T. after the fictional extraterrestrial visitor from another planet. During the recent National League Championship Series, the TV announcer Howard Cosell also used that nickname to Willie McGee's dismay and that of his co-announcers in the evening. I saw this live and I still can't believe that Cosell would use something like that. It would be considered a slur. Many people who saw the movie thought E.T. to be a lovable creature. Rudy May, the New York Yankees left-handed pitcher, enjoys being known as E.T. to his teammates, but 23-year-old Willie McGee does not. Nobody should be able to change your name. It's almost like changing your life. Willie McGee wouldn't elaborate on his dislike for the nickname. Perhaps he thinks it's a racial slur since E.T. is dark-skinned. Perhaps he's embarrassed because he has the hooded eyes and pinched nose, similar to that of the little creature. He also wobbles a bit when he walks, as E.T. does in the movie. Whatever the reason, Willie McGee is entitled to prefer his name to that nickname, even though he's virtually landed a World Series from another planet. Now, going into today's fifth game, McGee has been the Cardinals' most productive hitter in their postseason contests, despite having grounded a double play that ended a potential rally in the eighth inning of their 7-5 loss in Game 4. Over 7 games, including the 3-game sweep of the Braves in the NLCS, McGee has hit 3 homers, 2 triples, and 2 singles, driven in 9 runs, scored 8, and batted .291. He has also emerged as the final embarrassment for Yankees this season. He's another of the many prospects deemed expendable by Steinbrenner and the principal owners baseball people, his advisors in the baseball team's organization. During last year's World Series, the Yankees traded Will McGee, who had batted .332 at their National Farm team, the Class AA Center League, to the Cardinals for one Bob Sykes, a left-handed pitcher with an ailing arm. According to Bill Bergesh, the Yankees vice president for player personnel, McGee's departure has to be traced to the signing of Dave Winfield as a free agent late in 1980 to a projected 10-year, $23 million contract. When we signed Winfield, somebody had to come off for a 40-man roster to make room for him, Burgess explained. It was between McGee and another player I won't mention. We decided to outright McGee to our Columbus Farm team, which meant he was a frozen player. He couldn't be reacquired by us without going through Major League waivers. The other Yankee farmhand under discussion was Ted Wilborn, an outfielder, later dealt to the Giants in a trade for the pitcher Doyle Alexander, and Doyle was terrible with New York. McGee couldn't make our Columbus team in spring training a year ago, so we sent him to Nashville, where he had a good year, Burgesh said. But we knew that if we tried to get him back through waivers, we'd probably lose him for $20,000, so we decided to try to trade him. That way, at least we would get a player for him. So I phoned Joe McDonald, now the Cardinals GM. Willie McGee was mentioned at least one other National League club, the Padres, who spurned him. When the Cardinals offered Bob Sykes, the Yankees agreed. Sykes, meanwhile, drifted to Columbus and then to Nashville during the recent season. Now, but if you ever wonder why baseball players resent the way they're sometimes treated, as though slabs of meat, or wonder why they look forward to the opportunity of being a free agent, consider how Willie McGee learned he had been traded. I picked up the paper one day at home and read about it in transactions. The Yankees never called me. The Cardinals never called me. After 2 weeks of not hearing from either of them, I finally called the Cardinals. He was inspecting spring training this year, but the Cardinals shipped him to their Louisville farm team in the American Association. He was batting .291 in May when the Cardinals promoted him, as their center David Green had been put on the disabled list with a pulled hamstring. By the time Green was healthy, McGee had taken his job, finished the season with a .296 average, 56 runs batted in, and 24 stolen bases, with only 4 homers. In the Yankee organization, we were always told if you were good enough, you'd make it, Willie McGee was saying now. But everybody knew that getting traded somewhere else was your best bet because the Yankees signed free agents instead of going with younger players. Ironically, when McGee hit 2 homers Friday night, he was only the third rookie to establish that mark in a World Series game. The other 2 were rookies the Yankees organization of those eras had developed and promoted. Tony Kubek right here against the Braves in 57 and Charlie Keller against the Reds in 39. In that 4-game sweep, Keller had perhaps the best World Series rookie hitter ever had. 3 homers, a triple, a double, and 2 singles for a .438 average, 8 runs scored, and 6 RBIs. When that World Series ended, some people were suggesting break up the Yankees, but one Cincinnati loyalist shrugged and said, just break up Keller. Charlie Keller had a nickname that he might have resented too. Instead, he relished it, King Kong. But no nicknames for Willie McGee, please. At least not E.T. And of course, that man grew up to be Willie McGee, one of the greatest ball players of his generation. And basically, he never met a strike zone he didn't like, and he didn't meet a potential hit he didn't crack. But to have Howard Cosell, and Howard Cosell was kind of losing his mind at the time because Keith Jackson was taking more and more of that two-team play-by-play. Monday Night Football wasn't as effective, and he was starting to turn against the sport that made him boxing, especially the Tex Cobb match where Don Chivry had to take over. Takes a good Canadian to replace Howard Cosell. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our 1980 vintage podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And if you're out there and you don't know what E.T. is, and there's a few, look it up. And if you don't know who Willie McGee is, look it up. Have a good one. Bye.